Welcome to Stoner Watch. Today we're talking about 2021's Dune. And if you haven't already, please smash the subscribe button and click on that bell so you can notify for future videos. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up. And yes, I went and checked out Dune opening weekend. Wasn't really quite sure on how I felt on what I saw, so I did a deep dive over on YouTube to get a little bit more of a background story on the movie itself. Watched a couple of interviews with the director and the cast, and then a rewatch of the movie over on HBO Max, and I gotta say, this movie is pretty damn awesome. But I have to say, I think I like this movie better the second time, more so than the first time, because all I did the first time I watched this movie was going back and comparing it to the 1984 version, which I am most familiar with, because I didn't read the books, I didn't go watch the miniseries that came out in 2000. All I had to go on was what I saw in 1984. Now, I saw that several times growing up, but that's not the point. That's the only Dune story that I'm familiar with. So when I was watching this movie for the first time, I kept on going, okay, I remember that part from that movie. Okay, I remember that part. Okay, I remember that part. Now, I was paying attention that this movie was really awesome to look at. Now, when I say I was comparing it to the 1984 version, I'm talking about the story. I'm not talking about like the effects that they had in 1984 compared to the effects that they were using in this movie. Obviously, that now is going to be a lot better because the effects are a lot better now. So I'm not comparing them two in that regard at all, because they could do only so much in 1984, right? So that is not even part of my comparison. I'm just talking about the story, because it's basically the same story. But in this one, they're only really telling us half the story, right? Now, the 1984 version was like 2 hours and 20 minutes. Now, this movie is 2 hours and 35 minutes. It beats the old version by 15 minutes, but they're only telling you half the story. Dune, titled on screen as Dune Part 1, is a 2021 American epic science fiction film directed by Denis Villeneuve, with the screenplay by John Spates, Villeneuve, and Eric Roth. It is the first of the planned two-part adaptation of the 1965 novel of the same name by Frank Herbert, primarily covering the first half of the book. Set in the far future, it follows Paul Atreides as he and his family, the noble house of Atreides, is thrust into war for a dangerous desert planet Arrakis between the native Fremen people and the enemy invaders, and the former rulers of Arrakis, the House of Harkonnen. Dune has been considered an unfilmable work due to its breadth and complexity of plots, and prior attempts, such as the David Lynch 1984 film, did not perform well with critics. Following a failed attempt by Paramount Pictures to produce a new adaptation of Herbert's novel, Legendary Entertainment acquired the film and TV rights to the science fiction novel Dune in 2017. Development began shortly after, with Villeneuve expressing interest in the project and officially signing on as a director in January of 2017. He worked with Roth and Spates to write a screenplay, breaking it into two parts and incorporating an updated 21st century adaptation of the 1965 novel. Filming took place from March to July of 2019 at various locations, including areas in Budapest, Jordan, Norway, and Abu Dhabi. Dune premiered at the 78th Venice International Film Festival on September 3rd of 2021. Warner Brothers Pictures theatrically released the film in 2D, 3D, and IMAX internationally on September 15th of 2021, and a later release in the United States on HBO Max on October 21st, then to theaters on October 22nd. The film was generally well received for its visuals, scope, and ambition. Starring in this movie, we have Timothée Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Oscar Isaac, Josh Brolin, Stellan Skarsgård, Dave Bautista, Stephen McKinley Henderson, David Dasmokian, Chang Chin, Sharon Duncan Brewster, Charlotte Rampling, Jason Momoa, and Javier Bardem, just to name a few. Now, currently Dune is sitting with a Rotten Tomatoes score of 82% and an audience score of 90%. So it looks like everybody's pretty much loving this movie. Now, I won't say I'm part of the camp of the people that love this movie, but I do like it nonetheless. I thought the effects were really cool. I like the updated version of the story, maybe a little bit more so than the 1984 version, but it's been a long time since I've seen that movie, so I'm going to have to go back and rewatch it so I can get a little bit more of an updated comparison, right? But that's the topic for a whole nother video. Now, with a budget of $165 million and its total box office, as of this recording, $303 million worldwide. Now, most of the time you would have to say we'll have to wait and see how it does further on down the road at the box office to see if it's going to get a part two. But we don't have to worry about that, because shortly after it was released in the States, that following week, Legendary Pictures and Warner Brothers said they already greenlit Part 2. Now, they're going to release that one on October 20th of 2023. Now, I've heard some people are speculating that means they've been working on this for quite a while. So that means when Warner Brothers said that they were going to release all their movies on the HBO Max the same day as they put them in theaters, and that pissed all their movie people off, and like Legendary was threatened to sue, I bet you that was like part of the deal to say, okay, look, we'll give you a sequel, and this and that, just so we're trying to get more people on HBO Max. Because Legendary was threatened to sue, and then they quiet down like pretty quick. So I think maybe shortly after that, that deal was made. And maybe we could even be looking at a trilogy, because in a recent interview with Entertainment Weekly, director Denis Villeneuve said this, quote, I always envisioned 3 movies. It's not that I want to do a franchise, but this is Dune, and Dune is a huge story. In order to honor it, I think you need at least 3 movies. That would be the dream. To follow Paul Atreides and his full arc would be nice. Frank Herbert wrote 6 books, and the more he was writing, the more it was getting psychedelic. So I don't know how some of them would be adapted, one thing at a time. If I ever have the chance to do Dune Part 2 and Dune Messiah, I'm blessed. Now, while Part 1 and 2 focuses on the first book, the third movie of this supposed trilogy, Dune Messiah, takes place 12 to 15 years later after the events of the first 2 films. Now, even though that the third movie here wraps up the whole Paul Atreides story, there's even more Dune to come, because they've got at least 1 or 2 different HBO spin-off series in the works for this franchise. So we're going to be seeing a lot more Dune pretty soon. So I don't know, man, did you watch 2021's version of Dune? Let me know in the comments down below. Did you watch it on HBO Max, or did you watch it in the theaters? Let me know in the comments down below. I mean, I'm glad I got to see this in the theaters, and I cannot wait to see Part 2. So let me know what you think in the comments down below.